People that do so much for the Republican Party and for the events that we host, and we need volunteers and people to do different things. We just really appreciate it, so thank you. And it's so exciting to have Ambassador Branstad, Senator Grassley, and Governor Reynolds with us here tonight as our most distinguished guests. So with no further ado, because I know you want to hear from them, not me, I'm going to introduce two gentlemen next. First of all, I'd like to introduce Pastor Hess. Dean, are you in the room? I didn't see where you're sitting. There he is, right here. So I'd like to introduce Pastor Dean Hess. Pastor Hess was pastor at Zion Lutheran, and he was also chaplain in the fire department, and now he is a most valued volunteer for our county central committee, and we just appreciate all he does. So he is going to lead us in prayer for the evening.
Well, and God lives in the eternal now, so retroactive prayers are okay, even for grace tonight. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask for the presence of your Holy Spirit, not just in this place, but also in our hearts and our minds. Help us to be good servants for you and for the people of the United States. Guide us and direct us to paths of righteousness and justice. We know that we face adversaries who would tear down and destroy our Western and Christian values and replace them with chaos, perversion, and darkness. Support and strengthen us and fill us with resolve to remain in your will, your ways, and your truth. We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, including this food that we are in the midst of eating. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Next, I'd like to introduce a gentleman who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. It is my good friend, Representative Christian Hermanson. He is up from Mason City, and he's also a veteran, and he served our country 29 years, first in the Army and then in the Air Force. So, Christian, if you would come lead us in the pledge, I would appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce a group of dignitaries. Now, I am very seriously asking you to hold your applause to the end, because I'm not lying, I've got a whole page of dignitaries. This room is filled with people of such notable and distinguished credentials that I just want to recognize them. So, first of all, I want to thank the host committee and the people that made this evening possible. Thank you so much. You were so generous, and I don't think anybody told me no when I called. So I just can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Thank you. Next, Governor Reynolds, thank you for joining us tonight. We have with us as well Lieutenant Governor Chris Knoyer, and I'm not sure where everybody's seated, so Senator Chuck Grassley, Ambassador Terry Branstad, Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, Congresswoman Marionette Miller Meeks. She's going to be a little late, so I apologize. I was unaware of that, but she will be along shortly. Congressman Randy Feenstra, I know he's back over here. I saw him. Senator Annette Sweeney, Representative Jane Bloomingdale, Representative Shannon Latham, Representative Charlie Thompson. He's also a member of our State Central Committee. Thank you, Charlie. Clear Lake Mayor. Well, and we've already introduced Christian Hermanson, but another one of our representatives. Clear Lake Mayor Nelson Crabb. right over here. And I believe we have with us tonight perhaps the Garner mayor as well. Tim Schmidt, are you here? Okay. He was planning to be here, but maybe just not here yet. Also, Chris Hensley is here tonight with us. She's a member of our Board of Regents. And let me tell you, she's my partner in crime as we did this event. She's the other one. If you didn't get a call from me, you got one from her or the governor. So we thank everybody that helped make this night such a success. We also have Jim and Becky Mudd with us, and the reason I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you two made it possible for this event tonight to be filmed professionally, because when we have Ambassador Branstad and Senator Grassley together, we need to make sure that we have that on video, and we have it for our archives, because that's very important. We have with us tonight RNC National Committeeman, Steve Scheffler, I believe. Okay, just walked in, and RPI Finance Chair David Barker, also a member of the Board of Regents, and also, can I say that you're an appointee of President Trump? So thank you, David, for that as well. The Republican Party of Iowa State Central Committee members, do we have any State Central Committee members here? I do know we have one of the County Central Committee members here tonight with us, John Rosenfeld from the Cerro Gordo County Republicans. And with him at his table and around the room, there are also other Central Committee members. So I thank you. Are there any other county chairs here? I'm not aware of any, but thank you so much to all of you. And the Republican Party of Iowa, I think we already covered that. Cerro Gordo County GOP, we covered that. Now, we are on to the veterans and active service military. So I'd like all of you to stand up, veterans and active service. And now we will have a round of applause for all of you. Thank you all so much. At this time, I have just a couple of comments that I want to make, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff for the evening. But it is such a thrill to have everyone here, and as someone who has had the privilege of representing this district, not the last few years, but before I retired, I represented Clear Lake and Franklin County and Butler County, and of course those shifted from time to time. But one thing I know was true in every single one of those districts that I represented over my 18 years in the legislature is we shared very strong values of our faith, our family, our freedom, and hard work ethic. And now we're facing someone who wants to drag us in the wrong direction. And that's why I want to talk just a moment about why this next election matters so much. We're not just fighting for an office, a seat at the table. We're fighting to protect everything that's been accomplished. We will, of course, maintain the majority in the House and the Senate. But Rob Sand has already gone out portraying himself as a moderate, common sense, middle of the road guy, and yet, kind of behind closed doors, he admits that he will veto the expletive out of the Republican agenda. So know that that will happen. He is trying to buy an election. The money is coming mostly from his family. And this is not what Iowans deserve. It is not what we are looking for. So we have a race that we are going to fight so hard. Jeff and I were around when we took back the majority in the House, when we fought for the majority in the Senate. And now we're going to fight to hang on to the governor's office as well, so we can make sure that we continue doing the right things for Iowa and continue on the path that our wonderful Governor Reynolds has led us to: lower taxes, school choice, freedom in the workplace, business reform that has made it much more streamlined to do work in the state of Iowa. Every one of you in this room worked hard. I talk about time, talent, and treasure. Everyone in this room has contributed one of those things to make sure that we had a Republican trifecta in this state, and by gum, we're going to go to work and make sure that we work just as hard to hang on to it. So now without further ado, the one that can talk even, I mean, he will be ashamed, of course, but the guy that you've heard all of the mother-in-law jokes, right? The guy that knows that, that will tell you that mustaches are the real emblem of trust. So the ambassador and the chairman, mustaches, they're virtues. And if anybody's talked to him for more than 5 minutes, you also know that he has no time for the University of Iowa elite educators there. And so he has a great deal of disdain for that, as a matter of fact. But what he does love is he loves the state. He loves the state, he loves the people of Iowa, and he has devoted so much time to being the chairman of our party. I just want you to give him a huge welcome, Chairman Jeff Kaufman.
I probably should tell those of you that are that do not know me. I actually have 3 degrees from the university, so I'm not anti-academic. But I got, you know what they taught me when I got my PhD? The faculty really aren't grounded in reality most of the time. So that's where that's coming from. I want to say this about this area and the impact you've had on the state via Linda Uppmeyer and so many of your legislative delegation here. Linda is, after she was completed her time in the House and as the first female Speaker of the Iowa House, joined the team here at Republican Party of Iowa, and she's just absolutely been amazing. And I just have to tell all of you this because she's the favorite daughter up here. And it was the caucus season. Remember, 30 below zero, and if we don't have people show up, we lose first in the nation status. That's something we have to fight for every single time. We see what happens when you don't. The Democrats just handed it away because Joe Biden knew that he couldn't win Iowa. So it is a blizzard. Remember, it was a blizzard out there. There was no way there was going to be a plane that was going to land in the Des Moines airport. And Linda was in charge on the Saturday or on the Sunday for the caucuses of all the RNC members that were coming in. The RNC members, there's 165 of them, they're the ones that vote on us being first in the nation. So we can talk all we want and think that that's the thing that the country needs to do, but we have to treat them well. Linda was going to do that. Linda is a much better host than I am. She's more warm and she's just, I don't know, she's got more empathy and such. I'm not sometimes, I'm not a very huggable kind of a guy. So I'm really wondering what we're going to do without Linda Uppmeyer there. All of a sudden, I look, literally we're in the hallway, nobody's gonna go outside, you can't even stand across the street, and in comes Linda Uppmeyer with her suitcase and about 3 layers of clothes. She's there. How in the world you got to Des Moines, Iowa? Where were you flying from?
Arizona.
From Arizona.
American Airlines got me.
American Airlines got, you must have been the very, very last airplane to land. I'm not kidding you, that made a huge difference because the current RNC chair, although I just found out today he's going to be running for Senator of North Carolina, but I know the new guy, Governor, he's going to be fine. He's the chairman of Florida. But Linda made a huge difference. And she's made a huge difference not only in the First in the Nation caucuses, but she's also made a huge difference, obviously, in her partnership working with Governor Reynolds and before that Governor Branstad when she was in the House. Then finally, the last thing I'm going to say is I want to second this motion on this Rob Sand, folks. I've been following this kid for a long, long time. And yes, I know that I probably shouldn't be calling the auditor. Again, that's exactly what he is. He's juvenile, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he is all in this purely for the acquisition of power. And out of she said, well, it's his family kicking him. I want to make sure I'm specific with this. He raised $8 million. $7 million of it came from either his wife or his in-laws. By the way, the in-laws are Republicans, so even the Republican dollars are putting him in a position where he can say all of this ridiculous things. And I'll tell you this, if you don't hear anything else I say tonight, I want to tell you this. He was potentially worse than AOC. And here's the reason why I say that, folks. Listen very carefully. AOC will at least tell you in so many words, she's crazy. She will tell you she's far left. And she is actually honest about saying that. Rob Sandvogt, Rob is running away from the fact that he's a Democrat. He's running away from his left-wing views. And I will tell you this, unlike the Republican Party, which is bottom up, may I introduce you to President Donald Trump, if anybody doubts that we are not a bottom-up party. And the Democratic Party is top down. Even at the national level, they have something called superdelegates. That's code word for donors who actually pick their nominee. So the bottom line is Rob Sand will be told what to do. Rob Sand will do exactly what the DNC and the Democratic leadership in this country do not believe him. Yes, he'll put some things up on social media that he's out bow hunting today and pick all your other catchwords that he thinks he can flake off some Republicans. But he is absolutely top down, will do what he says, and will absolutely, if you like what Governor Reynolds and your legislative delegation has done, then get ready for somebody like him to undo everything. And by the time you find it out, it's too late. Now, I know I'm preaching to the converted here tonight, I would assume. But this is what you need to talk to people about. The states couldn't be higher. I served under a Democratic governor. In fact, I still can't use the word Culver without getting goosebumps in a bad way. He will unravel everything. Do not be drug in by his hypocritical social media crap. And that's what I would ask of all of you. Watch him like a hawk, and he's still going to be good enough at the spin in order for him to try to carry it off. So please, 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 if you don't hear anything else I've said, hear that. Now, on that rather unhappy note, let's turn to something happy. Let's think about what the Republicans, where we've come from, and especially the absolute heritage and legacy that we have here. We got two people, and this will be my introduction for both of these gentlemen, and I'm going to put them both in the same category. And that is, they are what I would call, and I'm picking the words very, very carefully, living legends. They have achieved legendary status. There's no doubt about that. Former Governor Branstad and Ambassador Branstad is the longest serving governor in the history of the United States. In the history of the United States. Senator Grassley, besides being third in line to the presidency twice, his colleagues have granted him that honor, is still in D.C. and still disrupting Democrats and the far left with inconvenient things like truth. These two are still viable. They are still alive in terms of political energy and passion, but yet they've been here long enough that they are also part of the roots that brought us to the dance. And so with no further ado, we already have Ambassador Branstad here, and let's bring up Senator Grassley, our two living legends in the state. That's not for me, gentlemen. That's for you two. Thanks for coming.
I'm glad to be here, of course.
This is fantastic. It takes a lot to humble me because I don't have ego issues. I got to tell you, I'm humbled and a little intimidated just because we've literally got, between the two of them, we've got almost a century of political acumen and common sense here. This is absolutely fantastic. I know you get a little uncomfortable when I brag you up, so I'll quit. Or either that, or I'll just direct all my compliments to Ambassador Branstad. But no, I want to get right to the point and bring us all the way back to where this started. This being these two living legends that are beside us. So we'll start with you, Ambassador. You could just remember just a little bit, reminisce a little bit. What brought you into politics? Why are you here now? Take us all the way back to the beginning.
Well, I grew up on a farm in Winnebago County, not too far from here. And in fact, I took Red Cross swimming lessons here at Clear Lake. We used to ride the bus down this is before they had swimming pools in Fort City and Lake Mills. We used to ride the bus down and take Red Cross swimming lessons here in Clear Lake. And I had a couple of great teachers in 8th grade, Fred Smith and Laura Seawick, and Laura Seawick taught the 3 R's of good government: rights, respect, and responsibility. And she was a real solid conservative teacher. And I went to her 90th birthday in Burt, Iowa. And so they had quite an influence on me. I grew up in a Democratic family, and I joined the Young Democrats as a freshman at the University of Iowa. But I determined that they were so far out in left field, kind of like they are today, that I couldn't take that. So I had a friend, Julian Garrett, who is now a state senator from Warren County, invited me to go to a Republican meeting, and the speaker was a young state representative from Butler County named Chuck Grassley. So I went to that and became active in the college Republicans and Young Republicans, and then was a Vietnam era draftee, came back from the service, and went to Drake Law School. And in my second year at Drake Law School, I ran for the Iowa legislature. Chuck Grassley was already chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and at that time we had some conservative Democrats, and he put together a group of about 15 conservative legislators, representatives, and about a third of them were Democrats. And we all worked together to control spending, and then I'm proud to say that I was one of the first to endorse Senator Grassley when he ran for the Senate in 1974. And I contributed $200 to his campaign. I was still in law school. That's a lot of money at that time. But anyway, I think Iowans like leaders that are hardworking and really give a darn about serving their constituents. So Iowans like leaders that are hardworking and humble. Senator Grassley has really led the way, and I learned a lot from him and from Bob Ray, who was my predecessor as governor, in watching the way that he handled the job as governor. So it's been an honor to serve, and I'm now retired, but I'm still rooting for the Republicans and trying to help in every way that I can.
I would put retired in quotation marks, and I would all cap rooting for it, so that's for sure. Thank you. So Senator, how did you get involved? You entered into the legislature in 58? And take me all the way back to your interest in politics and getting involved in the legislature initially.
Is it all right, before I do that, if I tell people in a calmly way why they shouldn't vote for a Democrat governor?
You're third in line to the presidency. You can do anything you want.
Well, I think all you have to, first of all, let me say thank you for all of you for giving me the opportunity to serve you in the United States Senate. And while I'm at it, let me thank Barbara Grassley for being by my side for the last 71 years. Whoever's running for Democratic governor, it doesn't matter. All you got to do is think about 12 years of Democrats before Branstad and Reynolds administration took over. They left us with tremendous amount of debt, no money in reserve accounts, or rainy day accounts, whatever you want to call them, and there's a lot of those accounts in state government, and never did anything to cut taxes. Now, what have these two administrations done? They have not gotten us into debt. They've always had reserve enough, well, until this year, they always had enough money coming in that they didn't spend every penny coming in, maybe 95 to 96% of what came in, so they could build up their reserve. and then reduce taxes and have money for a rainy day account and all that. So we don't want 12 more years of Democrat getting us $100 million in debt. No, I didn't yell. Is that okay? Okay, now you want to know how I got started. My mom and dad didn't do much more than vote, but they were always talking about government or politics and history. Probably more history than anything else. So I grew up from a very young age with the idea that I was going to do one of two things. And then I'll tell you how I got to be a farmer, because it wasn't going to be one of those. I was either going to be a professor of political science or I was going to be elected to office. And that's the route I pursued until Dad died in 1960, and then I became a farmer because I was the only kid that wanted to keep Mom on the family farm. So that's how I got into politics, because my folks brought me up in an environment of appreciating America. They knew I had an interest in politics. I remember one time Dad got an American Legion magazine because he's a member of the veteran of World War I, and there was a story in there about go to Congress and you get $10,000 a year salary. He says, you need to read this. Now, it'll probably make you think that when I was at that young age, I was going to be a United States Senator. I didn't have any idea. So my political career just kind of gradually evolved. That's the best way I can say it.
That would be an understatement to call your political career evolved, but we understand what you're saying.
And just in case I forgot to thank Terry Branstad in 1974 for giving me $200. Thank you, Terry.
You've never forgotten.
I remember Del Stromer wrote me a $25 check, but he says, don't cash this until you announce. You never said that.
Harriet Stromer is here, by the way,
Yeah.
and I sat next to him in the legislature, and so I used to call her Mother Harriet because I was a young state representative, and she kind of kept me on the straight and narrow. So, and I had the district right north of Del Stromer's district.
And wait a minute, right? All the way back there is Harriet Stromer. Ambassador, when you think back to your time as lieutenant governor, in those days, lieutenant governor was elected separately. Can you take us behind the scenes just a little bit to what it was like to be lieutenant governor under Bob Ray, and then your decision to run for a term yourself?
Well, first of all, the governor and lieutenant governor were elected separately. It was a 4-year term, and I ran for lieutenant governor. I'd run 3 terms as a state representative. And you had to be 31 to be either governor or lieutenant governor, 30. And at 31, I ran for lieutenant governor and won a 3-way primary against a couple of other Republicans that were much more liberal than I was. I represented a rural conservative district here in northern Iowa, and but I learned a lot by watching people like Senator Grassley and the job that he was doing as chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and Bob Ray, who was the governor, and he had a press conference, at least 2 every week, and I learned a lot about just meeting with people and being accessible and learning a lot about being humble and hardworking, and that's the kind of leadership that I always appreciate.
Thank you, sir. Senator Grassley, take us back to your decision to first run for Congress. What motivated you to run and go to DC, and then talk to us about the decision to leave Congress and take a run at the United States Senate?
Well, before that decision came, we had a whole bunch of Democrats in state office as a result of the Goldwater debacle. I was planning on being Secretary of State, but I told too many people, and the guy that was recently defeated came out and announced the minute he said I was thinking about running. So I lost that opportunity. And then 10 years before Governor Branstad run for lieutenant governor, I took a good look at running for lieutenant governor. And obviously I didn't run for lieutenant governor, even in the Republican primary. So then the next thing was to wait for H.R. Gross to retire. And when he retired, I was ready to go. And people like Governor Branstad was willing to help me. And I think my reputation in the state legislature helped me win a 5-way Republican primary. I was supposed to lose to H.R. Gross's chief of staff that was one of my opponents, but I won the primary with 42% of the vote, and then went on to be the only Republican elected to Congress from Iowa. So we had 1 Republican and 7 Democrats when I went to Congress, and that was the year Nixon resigned, and that's why it was so difficult for Republicans to get elected. You didn't even put Republican on your literature. I suppose that's where the party stood. We went to Congress and only had 140 in Congress, Republicans, compared to 222 today if all those vacancies are filled. And we only outed 90 new members of Congress because there was a sweep of the Democrats that year in the Congress. Only 16 of us were Republican. And it was just like it didn't count. In fact, I was on crutches at that time, and we had another Republican that broke his neck and had a collar on. And I think when we walked in the room, the Democrats said, "We just about got those two, and we're going to get them next time." Anyway, it happens that I'm the only one out of those 90 that are still around Congress.
And talk a little bit about your decision to move from Congress to the United States Senate.
I would imagine Governor Branstad had something to do with that. I would imagine a mutual friend that we have had something to do with that. But I saw Roger Jepson beating Dick Clark, one of the 2 very liberal Democrats from Iowa, and beating him fairly easily. And I didn't know that there was going to be a Reagan landslide. Didn't even know that we're going to have a Republican governor. But I guess Roger Jepson beating Dick Clark gave me an opportunity to beat the father of Governor Culver. Then that was John Culver, and I won the primary by beating the chairman of the Republican Party at that time, and he spent $1.6 million of his own money, and I spent $600,000. Obviously, you know, it was none of my own money, and I won the primary 65-35, and so it was a bad campaign until the last 2 weeks, because I was 15 points behind until the pro-life people and the anti-gun people and the evangelical Christians woke up to the fact that I was 15 points behind, and they went to work, and I won by 8 points.
And you both did us a wonderful, wonderful service by beating John Culver and then his son, Chet Culver. Thank you both.
Well, it was the pro-gun people that helped Chuck, so I wanted to correct him on one little point. But I also want to say that in 1974, when Chuck ran for Congress, and I was a strong supporter of his and contributed to his campaign, he was running against a guy named Steve Rapp from Waterloo, who I'd gone to law school with. And he was extreme liberal, and I had in my district, which included Highway 9, and there was a state representative, Laverne Schroeder from Southwest Iowa, that got 70-some representatives because I raised so much cane about getting money for Highway 9. He put an amendment that no money would go for Highway 9. And Steve Rapp signed on that amendment. Chuck Grassley didn't. And so I went all over northern Iowa here along Highway 9 to get people to contribute money, put ads in the local papers saying that they needed to vote for Chuck Grassley for Congress because he supports Highway 9 and his opponent, Steve Rapp, doesn't. And Chuck Grassley won, and I think we played a little role in that. But in addition to that, Nixon was the president and he had impounded a bunch of highway money. And the courts ruled against him and released all this money to the states. And I took a delegation down to the DOT, it was a highway commission then, in Ames, and we got Highway 9 moved from the bottom of the 5-year plan to the top of the 5-year plan. My friend Roy B. Johnson got elected mayor of Buffalo Center, and he beat the guy that I had beaten for state representative, Elmer Lybrand. So he invited me to speak at the dedication of the restored Highway 9, December 1, 1976. And I'll never forget what I said. I said, they said it'd be a cold day when this road is fixed, and it was.
That's a great story. And Congresswoman Miller Meeks just came in, so welcome to you, Congresswoman. I want to talk to both of you a bit about some of the national leaders that you met and interacted with. And I want to specifically, Senator, ask you about a couple of presidents and their styles and just some perspective that
But right now, I would say he was the best president I served under because he was very focused. He kept on 4 or 5 things, not all over the map, you know. On the other hand, I think we're going to applaud Trump because everybody thinks that people run on a platform, but they don't serve on that platform. That's how cynical people are about government. But we got a president that ran on a platform, and he's serving on that platform, and he's trying to deliver on his promises, and for the most part, he is. I think the president that I like personally the best was George W. Bush because he was so much like us Iowans.
in what way, Senator? Can you flesh that out a little bit? What?
Sit down and talk to him like he can talk to you, only he was a little more quiet.
This will be one of the few times I don't have a response to that. I agree. How about, who was the worst president that you served? What was a president where you felt there was a leadership void?
At the time he was elected, I didn't think Biden would ever be worse than Carter. But after 5 years, in fact, see, the reason I say that, I had very good relationships with him. He's a very good senator. You could work with him. And maybe I was a little naive when I went down. Only once was I invited to the White House to have a conversation on policy with him. That was early in his term. But I'd have to say at that point, I didn't think he was a whole lot different than he was as a senator. So you can say I was naive, that I should have detected something was wrong with him. But now I'd have to say that there's something wrong with him, and I think it affected him. But I think it's showing that he wasn't leading this country. He had a cabal in the White House that were leading the country, and that being president of the United States. Probably almost as bad as Woodrow Wilson after he had his stroke and his wife kept everybody out of the White House and she was running the country, or a guy by the name of House was running the country, and nobody knew it because they kept him secluded. And they did a pretty good job of keeping this guy secluded. In fact, if he had ever gotten out of the basement, he wouldn't have been elected in the first place. But I think we ought to thank God that maybe he did get reelected, not because of all of these bad policies, and they're terrible policies, but because if Trump had served another 8 years in a row, he would have been still not on top of everything. So he was out of office for 4 years. And he had an opportunity to realize how he misjudged Washington, misjudged the bureaucracy, how he had people around him that probably worked against him. And he's corrected every one of those mistakes so far as I can see. And that's why I think his next 4 years would be a heck of a lot better than if he had served 8 years in a row.
And Governor, the same to you. I know you were for Reagan before Reagan was cool. And so talk a little bit about your interactions with Reagan. You made it into his diary on a couple of occasions, and also some comments on Trump. You were his ambassador to China.
Well, I admired Ronald Reagan from the time I was a college student, and I was very impressed with the job that he did as a candidate. All the party leadership was for Gerald Ford. I was one of the few people that was for Reagan, but I was just a 29-year-old state representative. But I'll never forget when he came to speak to our Northwest Iowa precinct district convention at the Hotel Savory. And I was the chair for Reagan in that district, and they had this dates me a little bit, they had a phone booth at the top of the stairs at the Savory. And so I got in the phone booth with Ronald and Nancy Reagan to brief him on what he should say to our caucus. I could see the lines on Nancy's face, the worry lines on her face. But Reagan listened, and he got out there and gave a great speech, and he got half the delegates from Iowa. So, and I think he was a great president. He made a lot of difficult decisions. He promised me that he would do restructuring of agriculture debt. And I'll never forget, I went into the White House and I met with David Stockman. He says, I don't care what the president promised you, we're not going to do it. And they say I threw a chair at him, but I didn't. I just pushed the chair under the table, and we did get restructuring of agriculture debt, but instead of getting it in '76, we instead of getting it in '86, we got it in December of '87, which was kind of late. But Reagan was a good listener. And of course he loved Iowa. He had worked for both WOC and WHO, and he just loved Iowa, and he loved to tell stories about Iowa. So I was obviously a strong supporter of his. I was a little apprehensive about Trump. He's a millionaire from New York City, but he won me over. And obviously my son Eric played a key role as his chairman in both '86 and '90, and I'm really proud of the job he's done. As Senator Grassley has said, I think the 4 years that he wasn't in office, he learned a lot about how to handle things, and I think this term has been even better than the first. And he's got the courage to do some things that should have been done decades ago. And so we're really blessed to have him as our president.
Well said. Well said. You're telling me that it's time, so we have time for, they each take 1 minute? 1 minute, okay. See, I'm told what to do, Senator, all the time, at home and here.
It's necessary.
It's necessary, he said. So for 1 minute, answer each. Basically, what should our young people know about the history of Iowa politics? What's worked in Iowa? What's been the secret to our success here?
I think the people see themselves as a part of the community they live in, community by community. That adds up to approval and really distinguishing Iowa from other states. And I think that leads to really political activity that is so necessary for participatory democracy.
Well said. And Ambassador?
Well, Iowans are wonderful people. And Senator Grassley started the tradition of going to every county. They call it the full Grassley. I did that as governor, and I know Governor Reynolds has done that. But that's a great way to stay in touch with people and to get to know your constituents. And if you're really conscientious and work hard, you are able to get that across. And that's one of the reasons why Senator Grassley and I have been successful, is because we listen to the constituents, we go to the people, and we work hard on their behalf. And let me just tell you, this election is a very important election. We cannot take it for granted. We have a Democrat that's got an unbelievable amount of money, and he is, you need to know what he did before he ran for auditor. He worked for some of the most radical liberal Democrats that ran in our state. So that'll tell you, regardless of what he's saying right now, that'll tell you where he will lead the state. We don't need to get back into this deficit spending and government control. We need the kind of leadership that Governor Reynolds and I and the Republican legislators have provided. I'm so proud to say that we now have super majorities in both houses. But I'm telling you, this election will not be easy. And I'm concerned that if Republicans don't stick together and support the candidates that win the primary, we could not only lose the governorship, we could lose a bunch of the state offices and even control of the legislature with as big a margin as we have. Don't take it for granted. Work hard. We've got the right message and the right people, and we need to get out and work for them.
Many times at these events we don't have moments. Here's a visual moment for everybody. Thanks to both of you. You are absolutely our precious treasure. Now I believe, do we move right into our next form? Okay. Now we've talked to a ambassador and former governor and a senator. Guess what? Now we're going to talk to our current governor, and we're going to get her views on some things. So Governor Reynolds, come on up and join us.
Hi. Good to see you. Take care.
All right.
All right. That's a hard act to follow.
It's you've followed a lot of hard acts over the years, Governor, but you know what? You have absolutely done a stellar job in doing just that.
Thank you.
So, has there been a community yet where you and I haven't been at the same place at the same time? I think this is the first time we've been in Clear Lake together.
Yeah. Oh, probably maybe.
Yes.
It's hard to believe though. We spent a lot of time on the campaign trail together. So.
We appreciate you a great deal, and I know you have always had an appreciation for the past and the political roots that we have here. Can you talk just a little bit about what people like Ambassador Branstad and Senator Grassley, what they meant to you in terms of the tough decisions you've had to make?
Well, my working relationship with Governor Branstad, Ambassador Branstad, goes back a long ways because when Kevin and I lived in Mount Pleasant, I worked as a pharmacy clerk and I was a Hy-Vee checker. And we had an opportunity, we just had our third child, and we had an opportunity to move back home and be close to family and have a babysitter, and maybe we'd get a night out without taking the kids with us. So we were pretty excited to get back home. He went to Decatur County, we lived in Clark County, and there was a position open at the Clark County Treasurer's Office. And I applied. Kevin's uncle or aunt was the former county treasurer. So I applied. I got hired as the motor vehicle clerk in Clark County, Iowa. And I thought I had hit the payday. I had a job, I had benefits. I mean, I don't know if it was $19,000 a year, but listen, I thought we were set. You know, we were on the path. And I had started, and I think it was the following week, we had our first Treasurers Association meeting, and I was so excited. And I get there, and the day before, I think Governor Branstad had started the Fisher Commission, and which meant that they were going to regionalize county offices. And so I was like, dang it. You know, I've gone from the heyday to I might not have a job in a couple of weeks. But I want to tell you, this was my first experience with Governor Branstad. And so, you know, we had talked about driver's license issuance. And so we wanted to make the case that we thought we could actually do things better, cheaper, and faster at the county level than, you know, going to a state level. And so a group of us went up and sat down. Now, this was one of his main initiatives. And listen, we just did it in 2023, but it was a takeoff of what you started to do or tried to do way back then. And a group of us down in southwest Iowa went in and met with Governor Branstad and made the case that maybe county treasurers could issue driver's license 5 days a week instead of 1 day a week, and having them coming in at 9, setting up for an hour, taking a lunch break, and then tearing down at 3. You know, we could offer it all day. You wouldn't have to take off a day's work. You wouldn't have to take a kid out of school, your students out of school. And we could do it cheaper, faster, better. And he listened to us and decided to give us an opportunity through a pilot program to do it in 6 counties in southwest Iowa. And I thought that really made an impression on me, because this was one of his number one initiatives. But he was willing to sit down, meet with us, let us make the case, gave us an opportunity to prove it. And if we didn't, it wouldn't change, but we did. And eventually we were in 88 counties. We started doing driver's license at the county level. So that was my first interaction with him. And then to have the opportunity to serve with him and to run with him, to see his love for the state and love for Iowans, to see his incredible, incredible work ethic, to realize what we were facing when we were sworn in. We were facing $1 billion deficit. And I can remember sitting down with you, and what was that old hospital? I don't know, some old hospital over there. It's where we brought the team together.
It's torn down. But
yeah, it's gone, but it was there. And I watched him go through that budget, Des Moines General, yeah, go through that budget line by line and figure out what we needed to do immediately, hit the ground running when he was sworn in. And within a year, we had eliminated that deficit. We turned that deficit into a surplus. So we started early, we worked late. He would tell us about every time. Yeah, my dad used to say after putting in a hard day's work and I was walking uphill to get to the house, he'd turn to me and say, we didn't get much done today, but we're going to hit it hard tomorrow. And that is the work ethic that he has. And you better not be late anywhere, because if there was anything that was going to get a burr under his, you know what, it was being late to a meeting. So very few lieutenant governors, and I served 8 years with you, have an opportunity to be just a part of the team, and I had just a front row seat every single day of what it takes to be a governor and to run this state. And I just, there's not really words to say how grateful I am for that. So thank you.
Can you take us, before we leave that, can you take us back to the moment when he was going to ask you to be lieutenant governor? What was going on in your mind?
Well, first of all, I guess if you don't really think it's real, you must interview really well. So I never thought I would be in politics. I never had any vision of being in politics. It just had never entered I'd never been around it. But Dave Roeder called me and said, hey, they'd like you to come in and interview for potentially being the lieutenant governor candidate. And I said, oh, well, thank you. But I'm sure the Kembles have said to the governor that I think Kim Reynolds, the good friends of ours from Osceola, would make a great lieutenant governor. So I said, they tell him thanks, but he doesn't have to interview me. This is a true story. story. I said, you really don't have to interview me. And he said, no, he's serious. He wants to come in. So okay, so I went in. And made a pretty good interview, I think. But anyway, I think I was pretty relaxed because I just didn't think it would happen. And so then I didn't tell anybody, because you can't tell anybody, and I don't even think I told Kevin. And so then I got a call back, and I said, oh, okay, took a little more serious this time. But I think it was at that point I said to Kevin, I said, I didn't think there was anything happening with this, but I guess I'm coming back in for a second interview. And we were, I think it went okay. And so then the girls and I were on, we were doing the Heart Walk for the Heart Association, and I got the call from him that he had selected me to be his running mate for lieutenant governor. I think I was just in a blur. And I don't know how many of you really know Kevin. He's pretty quiet, pretty much keeps to himself. Just a patience, a joke, 3 daughters, me. Oh. Anyway, so I call him to tell him, I said, oh my, you're not gonna believe this. He said he wanted me to be the lieutenant governor. And we just had never had any money, we just worked hard. Anyway, we had saved up, and we were gonna do an Alaska cruise. And doing it, the first thing he said to me was, not congratulations, this is cool. He goes, I suppose this means we don't get to go on the cruise. I said, I suppose it doesn't. So, and it was just, and then we got to sit down and meet with Chris and Kevin and the governor and I, and just to make sure that there was a relationship there. And that was the best evening ever. We just all hit it off so well, and I just really enjoyed working with. I would really enjoy both Chris and Terry. And honestly, when the governor got appointed to be the ambassador to China, I met with Chris because I said, I would be honored and would love to run, but family is really, really important to me, and I just want to make sure that I can still be a mom and a grandma and a governor and buy the Christmas presents, cook the meals, and do all the holidays. And anyway, she said, yeah, you just have to make sure that you make time to do it. So
Thanks for giving us some insight on that. We appreciate that. Let's talk Trump. People like Trump stories.
Yeah.
And I know you absolutely campaigned your heart out in the general elections of 2016, 2020, and 2024. I mean, you were just tireless at advocating for Donald Trump. We've had some unique experiences with him. Talk a little bit about from the governor's point of view, first of all, what it's like to have a president that truly favors our state, number one, and then your favorite Trump story. I know you got some.
Goes just a lot about that. I think what I love most about him is just how he interacts with the governors. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, we had an opportunity to be at the White House all the time, and he really did a great job of connecting and bringing us in, setting us around the table, really getting feedback from governors. And you go from that to the Biden administration, where I didn't go out to Washington, D.C. at all. We didn't even have our political person out there because there was just no interaction at all. So it's just been incredible to watch him really engage and ask for ideas and to work with the collective states. I just really appreciated that about him a lot. Golly, one of my favorite meetings, I think, was with Senator Grassley when we were in there I'm sure it had something to do with ethanol, but anyway, just sitting across from him and bringing us all in. And at one point he threw a Hershey bar at us and he went and got a Diet Coke. And I mean, it's just like a lot going on. Just a lot going on all the time. I can remember being in there, you were in the Beast with us. I mean, who would have thought that you'd ever be writing in the Beast with the president? I mean, it's just crazy, but he had me actually hit the windows about 5 different times. Yeah, so I was sitting there trying to have a conversation. I'm sure I was trying to get him to do something, because you can't miss any opportunity to try to talk him into doing something. But I was probably saying something. He said, hey, you're not going to believe how thick those windows are. Just hit that window. And I said, what? Excuse me? And he said, just hit that window. So I hit the window, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's big. He'd say, no, really, hit it again. And I hit that window 4 times. And I said, yeah, it is incredible. And I think the rallies, I love the rallies. I love watching him just engage with people, and they're long. They're long rallies.
Yes, they are.
They are long
Yes, they are.
rallies. But there's lots. I just,
Especially when it's 95 degrees.
especially when
and
it's,
water's warm, right?
I've done 95 and I've done the freezing one in Dubuque
Yes.
in 20. That would be the one time I was grateful to have a mask on my face because it was right after COVID. And he looked at me and he goes, "Whoa." I thought it was cool because it was the Iowa flag, but he said that's one big mask. So he says what he thinks.
It was absolutely great, and you got to tell I know he told you several times about the since he sent then Governor Branstad to China.
Oh, yeah.
That opens the lane for you.
Oh yeah, we'd be with a meeting in the White House, and he said, yes, I sent Governor Branstad to China, so that you could be the governor of the state of Iowa. Like, well, I think he brought a lot to the table. I mean, they loved him, but he used to give us a bad time about that.
Those are great. While you've been governor, there have been so many crises. I mean, that there's no way you could be educated enough in experience to experience what was coming at you, what was being thrown at you. COVID, for example. What was that like to all of a sudden have your world turned upside down, but yet being a strong conservative and continuing to govern in that way?
Well, I don't think I've been on the job very long. We started with tornadoes down in Pella, and then we went to flooding on the Missouri, and then we had a couple more tornadoes, I think, in the Bondurant area, and then we moved from those right into COVID in 2020. And, nobody knew anything. And so I can remember doing a press conference the night before. We just had our first positive case and said, no, I will not be closing schools down. We will be finishing out the school year. And by the next day, at that time, 3 cases was, community spread, and you were supposed to basically shut down at that point. And so the next morning, it was at the end of the school year that year, but we went ahead and sent the kids home. But I just think trying to, every day it was something different, trying to just manage that. And I think one of the things that we did right was every single day we had a press conference. And so I put your trust in the people that you serve, and you be honest with them, and you tell them what is going on. And we spent an hour every day. So I have a lot of respect for doing a press conference every single day. I wouldn't want to go back and do that. But it was really important for us to be able to connect with Iowans and give them the most recent, up-to-date information that we had. We were very innovative in setting up testing sites and really worked with, the private sector and the church community and just Iowans in general. So I came out, honestly, just a different governor than I went in. You were just challenged every single day. I moved my entire team out to the State Emergency Operations Center. I thought it was important that the cabinet be together so that we were all hearing the same thing, and we were reacting in real time. We did a set rep every single morning. We identified the top 3 things. We did a set rep at the end of the day. We had the general was very involved with logistics, and we just took one day at a time and got through it. And then in the middle of that, we had a derecho. I didn't know what a derecho was, and I just learned how to say epidemiologist. So, that's a tricky one if you're not in the healthcare field. And I got to say it about 150 times every single day at a press conference. So then we had the derecho, and then last year we had 3 presidential disaster declarations in 2 months, and I think we had a couple tornadoes in between. So we're hoping I get to sail out of this without another disaster. So keep your fingers crossed when we're done.
The inner strength that you had to find during even one of those in a year is pretty amazing. Where does that come from?
I have just a really strong faith, and I don't know how you do this, or I don't know how you go through anything like this without having just a tremendous faith and belief in God. And I mean, I couldn't. My family, we couldn't get together with family. Family is like my rock, and I wasn't about to do anything different than what I had asked Iowans to do. In fact, one of my lighthearted favorite memories of COVID is it might shock you, but this isn't my natural hair color. You know, I'm 65, so, you know, and this went on for a while. So as we did those daily press conferences, that little gray kept getting whiter and whiter and whiter. And at that point, the salons were open. And so I said to Kevin, well, you're gonna have to dye my hair because I gotta do something with this. And I said, I'm not gonna sneak in and have somebody else do it. And so he went down and Googled it. And so it looked like a science experiment going on in the bathroom. And he had the bowl and he had, I don't know where he found the brush. It was probably a paintbrush or something, I don't know. So he had it all set up and we were in there and he was doing, I said, okay, now here's the second part of this. Not only do you have to color my hair, but I'm gonna have to take a picture of it and I'm gonna have to post it because I need people to really believe me that you actually did it. And before we started, I sent a text to all the girls and I said, oh, please say a prayer, your dad is about to color my hair. And so they all sent back and said, how did it go? And actually, he did pretty good. I mean, I was pretty impressed. But number one social post that I did. And when we were touring, like the sites where they were doing the test and the shots and stuff, I brought him with me a couple times, and you wouldn't even know I was there. They were like, oh my gosh, I love the fact that you colored your wife's the governor's hair. So he was a rock star after that. So
I would, the alternative to that, Governor, is this.
yeah.
I don't have to worry about coloring anything. Been told I have one more question.
Okay.
The one thing that has come through ever since you become governor is just the fact that how honored you have been. You've never forgotten where you come from. That's the one hallmark about you. What, out of all of these years, all these decisions, what 10 years from now when you're reflecting back, what do you think you're going to be the most proud of? I know that's like picking flavors of ice cream as you've done so
I don't
many
know.
things.
I think what I would be most proud of is that it was such a hard decision for me to make, not to run again. Because I love what I'm doing and I have loved serving Iowans in this capacity and loved serving with Governor Branstad and just making a difference. But I just hope I'm remembered by Iowans that, you know, I tried to do the best that I could do, that I tried to gather the information and make decisions on the information that we gathered. But you know, I'm proud of what the tax environment. I'm proud of what we've done for education. I'm really proud of the protection that we put in place for our kids. I can't even tell you how hard it was with the Biden administration and how fearful I was about what was happening at the border and what they were doing to our kids and what they were doing to our schools and to our families across the board. So if you even for a moment think that it would be okay to have a Democrat step into the governor's office, all you have to do is look back at the last 4 years under Biden. And I never, in my wildest dreams, believed that I would see this amazing, strong country erode at the pace that it did in 4 years. So don't think that we built up this wall and we're going to be good to go and we can get through. It's not. In 4 years, the damage that President Biden did to this country and to Americans is unconscionable. And it's the same thing they do every time. They run as a Republican. We're smarter than that. Don't be fooled. I mean, when I ran in 2018, it was a midterm. It was a tough election. I ran against a self-funder. I worked my tail off. I learned from this guy how to raise money, and I set records. But, you know, the RG helped me get across the finish line, but I just outworked him. And I can remember trying to get people fired up. I got on tables. I got on chairs. I mean, just like, hey, you got to take this serious, or we're not going to win. We are not going to win this. And I won by 2 percentage points if you round up. And I just said this at the Republican Governors Association. I was thanking them for helping me have the opportunity to serve. And then I got in there and I got to work, and just working with the legislature and laying out our plan and then following through with what we say we're going to do. And that's what we've done as a team. We've worked so well together, the House, the Senate, and the Governor's office, and that is why we've had the record that we've had over the last 8 years. And then we came back and won by 19%. So, you know, but it'll be a tough one, and we got to work hard, and we can't take anything for granted, or we're going to see what happened at the national level.
And Governor, you and I mean, you especially, both of us know behind the scenes, just to reinforce what she just said, honestly, if you saw this guy behind the scenes, this Sand, I'm telling you, what she's saying is true. He will say anything, do anything, and fib about anything in order to acquire what he's going to get and then govern like Biden. We both know that. And I can't tell you how important it is, because unlike AOC, he may think like AOC, and he'll govern like AOC, but he doesn't talk like AOC. So at all costs. And you get a taste, we all know the great things she's done for parents and for the tax environment and for personal freedoms. We all know that. We can't let that be undone. You have worked too hard, and you made us too proud.
Well, we all have. So let's go get it done.
Thank you, Governor.
One of these is left on, no?
Oh,
It's on, it's good. I just want to give you one final thank you, and there was one thing I omitted. I looked around the room tonight, and there were some dignitaries that we did not recognize. We have 2 county supervisors here that I know of. One of them is Casey Callahan, one is Carl G. Knapp, and we have a city councilman, Mark Ebling here, and there may be others. Please raise your hand, and thank you for your service to our cities and counties, because, you know, as I know the governor talked about when she began as her county treasurer, all government starts local. This is a grassroots party, it's a grassroots state, everything's local. So thank you for all you're doing, and thank you, Governor, and thank you, Senator, thank you, Ambassador, for being here. What a wonderful night. Thank you. Yes, of course.
I have to say one thing. I want to recognize my outstanding Lieutenant Governor. I have been so proud to have her be as part of my team who is running for state auditor. So let's get out there and make
All right, thank you, everyone, and thank you to my family for all being here. This entire table is my family, and the Harriet Stromer that he was talking about is my mother. So thank you so much.
We're not planning to do any interviews, but I can ask if you have questions. You have questions?
For Randy.
Yeah, let me check with his team.
Okay.
And who would you like to talk to?